If you're running multiple websites, perhaps you're running those sites because you work for an organization that has different brands, or maybe you have it set up with multiple sites for different languages, for example. If those sites are installed in separate instances, each with a CMS of its own on a different server, etc., you could have quite a large estate of websites to look after. You could be missing a trick. WordPress Multisite is a way of consolidating multiple websites, bringing them together on a single network. What we're looking at here is a demo site. So this is a site for a fictional business. It's around the subject of Gutenberg, which is the WordPress editor. And in this demo site, there's quite sort of simply a standard, looks like a standard B2B website. And in the navigation, we've got a simple link that's going to take us over to the Spanish version of this site. It all looks very similar, just a complete translation of the site. Now, what's interesting about this is these sites are using a multi-site network. As I said, there are actually two websites using the same installation. So if we look at this graph here, we can see multi-sites use like a parent site at a top level. That parent site has a template, has sets of templates for the pages, for the different components, plugins, etc. And those templates and components are shared across the network. So you can have as many sites as you want. There's 3 on this illustration, but you could have 10, 20, 100, it doesn't really matter. And each one of these sites could be used either for a sub-brand, a different service, or a different language. As you can see here in the illustration, they use a single repository for the site theme. And within that theme, there is a shared library of components called the block library. For example, if you choose to create a new component for your website, so maybe it's a new call to action block, a call to action button, something like that, it can be created once and distributed right across the network, even kind of color coded, so it looks green on one website and blue on the other, but it's essentially the same component. Out of the box, WordPress Multisite gives you a couple of domain options. So you can have this kind of subdirectory configuration. So it would be like domain.com/site name, or a subdomain, so sitename.domain.com. However, it is possible to configure multi-site to use a completely separate domains for sites within the same network. So this example is altadomus.com, which is a website launched by Filter quite recently. Altadomus is quite a large investment firm. They own a number of different brands, and one of those is Solvas Solutions. So Solvas Solutions has a site in the network. It has a completely separate domain, solvassolutions.com, but it essentially shares the same installation of WordPress. So you might also see here in this comparison, it shares some of the same design language and components. So if we jump back to the example we saw earlier, also on this demo site, we've added a third site. So by navigating around the site using this My Sites menu, which is only accessible to the top level administrator, we can jump over to this fictional training website. And what's interesting about this is that it follows a number of the same sort of styles and components. The typography is the same. However, it's independent. It has its own navigation. It has its own color scheme, and so on and so forth. But again, it's a single installation. So the benefits of having sites set up like this are mainly to do with that central management. So it's an ideal way for, let's say, someone who's in charge of those multiple websites to be able to keep view of what's going on right across the web estate. You can quite easily manage user permissions. So, for example, if you have a publishing department in Spain, you can just give them access to the Spanish site if you so wish. Publishing on different sites is independent. So even if you're doing translations, it doesn't have to be a direct translation. The content of any page can be different. In fact, you can have different pages. You don't have to have exactly the same pages. So that's particularly helpful if you're producing content that's regional content that's very specific to regional users. You can also produce content that goes across the network. So you can produce content and publish that to multiple websites at the same time. As I said before, it's a great solution for multilingual. The setup I showed you there is really quite basic. If you were serious about multilingual, you'd probably want to take it a step further and use a multilingual plugin like Multilingual Press that will help you translate things like taxonomies and categories and menus and things like that. You can have central analytics. So again, for that person or people who are in control of the overall network, the group of sites, you can get a really good view of how those sites are performing together. One of the major benefits, of course, is reduced fees in terms of hosting and maintenance. Because it's only one installation of WordPress, it's only one hosting package, and it's possible to arrange a maintenance contract that covers the entire network because it's a central code base. So developers like Filter can access that code base from one place and update as we go along. A really neat feature is that sites on a multi-site network are clonable. So if you are producing multiple sites that are similar in one way or another, perhaps they're extremely similar, if they are translations, it's possible to clone a website and then actually edit it in situ, translate it into a different language and then publish it. And finally, these sites, they share things like plugins and the central theme, as I said earlier. But you only need sort of one plugin license. You can enable that plugin to go throughout the multi-site network. If the plugin needs updating, you only update it once and it's distributed across all sites. So hopefully you can see how a multi-site network can give you a really efficient group of sites. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out.